Hello, viewers. I'm going to talk about the questions which were asked me before, and some of them are politics, some of them are astrological. So I'm going to make a video in English language to answer these questions. I have already made the Turkish one, and it has been downloaded today. And then I decided to make this video for the questions which were asked to me about politics, astrology, and what's going on in Ukraine and the policy of the Western countries. And I'm going to answer the question, the first one. The first question, why the West took their soldiers back from Afghanistan. Yeah, suddenly this decision had been taken, and many thousands of soldiers of the Western countries they went back their countries. We have seen on telly some human tragedies and the dropping bodies from the planes, dead bodies, and people are trying to get on the planes of United States while the planes were leaving the airport in Afghanistan, Kabul, Afghanistan. And we were very sad watching these things, human tragedy. Uh, in fact, I know it is going to be very surprising things which I'm going to give you information. I lived in Kazakhstan and also Holland for a long time, and I know their languages. And I got a lot of information while I was living in those countries about East and West, really what's going on. People only know what they have seen on telly and what they have read on the newspaper. In fact, many of them are bought by the global powers, which are trying to make a big global power above all. And in fact, the Afghanistan was producing a lot of drug, uh, heroines, marijuana they were producing, and what they have produced were being carried through Iran. And before 2010, and also there was traffic through Turkey, and Turkey stopped this traffic after 2009, 2008, 2009, and when the drug traffic couldn't find a way going through Turkey, they found another way through North Iraq and also northern Syria under the control of PKK militant groups. They were taking this drug through Afrin tunnels. There is Afrin province in northern Syria. This province was very important for PKK and United States. Why? Because this province was the only connect place through the Mediterranean Sea. There were Afrin tunnels and some drug trafficking, and also human trafficking through these tunnels going to Amanos forests of Antakya. And then also the drug was being carried through the Iskenderun harbor to the other Western countries. This drug traffic was controlled by global powers, and of course, the West controls it very well. But Turkey took Afrin and stopped this trafficking through northern Syria. This was very important to stop this trafficking. When this traffic stopped, there was no need to protect his way and also staying in Afghanistan. And they took their soldiers back from Afghanistan, and they lost their hopes about northern Iraq and also northern Syria trafficking, about drug, and this has stopped. This is very important point because Turkey and Venezuela is making a business export-import because Venezuela is living heavy embargoes of the Western countries and they can't sell their oil and gold. In fact, global power wants this gold and oil, but they can't because Maduro never let them take this oil and gold. Maduro is still standing, and the man of Western countries, Guaido, is trying to take the power in Venezuela and trying to rule that country. And of course, he is ready to give all the gold, control of the gold mines and also oil, of course. And he has got very good relations with the Western countries. That is why, from the beginning, the Western countries targeted Venezuela's economy, and they tried to Maduro um, away. They tried to take him away from the presidency of Venezuela. And Venezuela's leader Maduro came to Turkey long time ago, and a big business started in between two countries. And goods are going from Turkey to goods and service are going to Venezuela, such as many foods and also other important necessary consumption items are going, and gold soil mine was coming from Venezuela to Turkey. Of course, this disturbed Western powers, and they used a man who was very close to government long time ago, and they forced him to speak. Um, Turkey and Venezuela is making drug trafficking. In fact, they tried to uh, punish Turkey just because of stopping trafficking in between Afghanistan and Europe, Western European countries, because the drug was going there, and then they were distributing other countries, and they were very disturbed about this, of course. Anyway, uh, still, the gold mine, gold soil is coming to Turkey now, and it is turning to gold in Çorum city in Turkey. Çorum is a city in the northern part of Turkey, located in there, and producing gold in there. And still, Turkish export items are going, but they're not drug. And also, they blamed a man who is Aksakallı, is called as White Beard. He is a Turkish White Beard in the Turkish Council. He was blamed. Why? Because they target very important anti-imperialistic, anti-Zionistic political people in Turkey. They are always trying to control inside of Turkey. In fact, some of the politicians in opposition parties in Turkey, they are ready to be Turkish Guaidos. They are really Turkish Guaidos. Exactly the same, no difference. Anyway, the last question, Ukraine and Russia. A long time ago, when Soviet Union uh, went into many pieces, many countries, 15 other countries, Western countries promised Russia, we're not going to make them a NATO country. And we promise you, they said. Of course, this was another promise they would never keep because unfortunately the Western countries always giving promises which they will never keep. They always did this. They did this to Indians in America and in Africa, in Turkey also. When you look at the world history, you will see a lot of promises which were given by the Western countries, promises which they would never keep. And they also promised Ukraine to support, to do everything, they did a lot of blah blah blah, but they never kept their promises for Ukraine. Why? Because Ukraine was a birth seed for Russia, for Sweden, for Finland, for some countries in the some European countries, because when Russians invades, when Russia invades Ukraine, plan makers they sized up Sweden, Finland. They will want to be the member of NATO, and the NATO is going to be stronger. NATO needs enemy. Starting from the 9/11, this enemy was radical Islamist groups in the world. In fact, these terrorists, they were organized by their help just to create an enemy to stand up, to keep the union together. They did this. And some journalists, when they wrote their visions, when they gave the proofs about that, unfortunately they were not supported by the Western television channels. This is a fact of West. Anyway, but interesting things happening because Ukraine and the Ukrainian language is very close to Russian language. Я тоже говорю по-русски, я тоже понимаю немножко украинский язык. I said I understand a little bit Russian, and I understand also a little bit Ukrainian language in Russian language. I said because many words are similar, and they were Orthodox, and they were Slavs. They felt each other very close till the Soros started revolutions in Ukraine just about 15 years ago, maybe more, and Ukraine started getting further, went away from Russia, close to European Union. And of course, Russia didn't like this and invaded Crimea and also Donbas area. Unfortunately, I said unfortunately because Ukraine has got a sovereign, independence country in United Nations, in Europe also. So you can't say, there are Russians here, let me take it, or let me invade it. You can't say this. This is or dreaming the time of Tsars, during the time of Tsar Nicola, or also Soviet Union, criticizing Soviet Union and also referring Soviet Union. This is the contradiction of President Putin, really. He invaded Ukraine just because of there are Russians in that area. Of course there are. But this is not a reason to occupy a country. There are a lot of Turks in Western Thrace, in Greece. Are we going to rescue them? And today, this is impossible. You cannot take you cannot take self initiate initiative um, things to occupy a place. You can't do that today because otherwise you're going to be obsessive. Otherwise, you're going to be a violent president, and then you will lose your prestige in many countries. This is what happened to Mr. Putin, really. This was planned by the Western countries also. Mr. Putin was following very clever policy till invading Ukraine because he broke the green ribbon policy of the West in the south, made a good relations with Turkey also, good cooperations in many ways, and two countries solved many problems in Nagorno-Karabakh, in Azerbaijan, occupied land by Armenia, and also they are keeping peace together in Syria, and they have vision in in Libya together. Of course, they have got opposite sides, but what I can say, um, even if they are in different sides in Libya, they took the control in Libya, west side and east side, and I hope, inshallah, things will be okay in the Ukraine. But unfortunately, things are getting worse because very long Russian military convoy, is heading to capital Kiev of Ukraine, and they are ready to invade inside of Kiev, and the plan is to taking down the Ukrainian government. And I believe right after that they're going to start the elections again, and the Russian-sided new government is going to be the ruler of Ukraine in the future. This is what I guess. But on the other hand, some Western soldiers are entering the Ukraine, and the war can get worse. Really, I hope not. But Russian soldiers, they never fought like this before. We know Russian soldiers in Afghanistan. They fought without caring the civilians there long time ago in 1980s. And also they were fighting in Syria without caring the civilians. Many civilians died in Syria. And the same thing is not happening in Ukraine. Why? Because 55% of Ukraine, nearly half, uh, is Russian. Other half is Ukrainian and the mixed nations like Tatars, Polish, Hungarians, and some Belarusians and some other former Soviet citizens. They are living in there. I've been to many cities in Ukraine before, starting from Lemberg, Lviv till Kharkiv, and in the north, Kiev, in the south, Kherson, and also Odessa. Ukrainians are very peaceful and nice, civilized people. But I'm very angry with the hypocrisy of the Western countries because I listened to some speakers. They were saying, "Oh, blonde and blue-eyed people are dying here." They are saying, "What is this?" And the dying people, blonde and blue-eyed Europeans, are dying. This means they were never sad for Syria and also Afghanistan. They are only sad for the white Europeans. On their mind, European is Christian, blue-eyed, blonde, like this. Because we know what happened in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Blue-eyed and blonde Muslims were being raped and killed about 3 years, and no one helped them. 55,000 people were killed just for cutting their throats nearby the Drina River. 250,000 civilians were slaughtered. Millions of them suffered inside of the refugee camps and also concentration camps. They raped a lot of Bosnian and Croatian women, unfortunately. And a lot of stories went there. The worst genocide had been done in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and West waited till end of the third year of the war. They waited, let the Muslim blonde and blue-eyed Bosnian Muslims finish, then they came there, and they made a very ridiculous, stupid governance system in Bosnia-Herzegovina. 3 presidents are sitting there, and each of them are ruling the country in turn. Normally Bosnia-Herzegovina, the big majority is Bosnian Muslims. What a ridiculous things. The minorities are also ruling with their own presidents. Anyway, Bosnia is one of the hypocrisy of the Western countries, starting from 93 till 95. We are talking about a country in the middle of Europe. Ali Izetbegovic was a person, blonde and blue-eyed, but he was alone just because of his religion. He was Muslim, and he was one of the most cleverest Muslims in last century. I recommend you to read his book, Islam in Between East and West. Ali Izetbegovic was a very wise person. Anyway, we thank Bosnians and Bosnian Muslims and also Ali Izetbegovic just to show us the real face of Western countries. Fascist, imperialistic, very selfish, Eurocentric mind they have. Turkey, Istanbul is in Europe, and Istanbul is the largest city and the biggest city of Europe. Without Istanbul, there is no Europe. Because Istanbul is the gate of Europe, bridge of the continents and the seas. Even if we have got very important city and the largest city in Europe, they try to call us Asian or something. Yes, our roots are from Central Asia, and Hungarians, Finnish, Finland, Estonians, these are also, when you look at their history and where they're from Asia, Kipchak or Oghuz clans. They migrated from there. If you take Turks from the world history, there is no history. Because Odin, if you read his life, he was a very nice, very kind king of Norway, but his root was Turkish from Finland, that area, and even Norwegian folk tales starting once upon a time. There was a man whose name was Odin. He was from Tyrkland. Tyrkland is Turkey in Norwegian language. Anyway, but Europe, especially western part of Europe, tried to choose Zeus, not Odin, or Thor. They always ignored Thor and Odin and their roots. Anyway, even if they ignore, world history knows everything about that. Russian soldiers didn't want to kill the Ukrainians. That is why they were only attacking some targets. Because in Ukraine there are a lot of Russians, very similar to their culture. They speaking same language. Everyone speaks Russian in Ukraine. So it is like for a Russian soldier fighting for their own people against their own people. It's so hard. It's just like a Turkish soldier. Imagine Turkish soldier. I tell this to for Turks going to Azerbaijan and trying to Azerbaijan and killing the Azerbaijani people, Azerbaijan Turks. It's so stupid, really. And also imagine British soldiers are going, English soldiers are going to Australia and fighting against the Australians. Exactly the same. Russia is trying to take the Australia, his side, and also New Zealand, and English soldiers are going to kill Australian soldiers and the New Zealand soldiers. Exactly the same. You can't do this, of course. And that is why it was a big mistake for Russian President, Mr. Putin. I always admired his decisions until entering Ukraine. This was a very bad decision because can finish whole Russia in the end because all the Western countries are getting united against Russia. And Russia is laying back to China and India to power in Asia. Of course, can do this, but also a lot of heartbreaking things happening in Ukraine, and a lot of Ukrainians who liked Russians is a little bit getting colder and colder feelings against Russia and Russian army. Anyway, I hope things will be okay, and the Turkey is the only country has got good relations in two countries, and Turkey never accepts this invade, of course. But on the other hand, this is important. Turkey has got dialogue with Russia and Ukraine at the same time in NATO, in Western countryside. But we are in NATO, we are in Western side, but we are not like Westerns or other NATO members because Turkish soldiers and Turkish people are following justice. And the Turkish people and Turkish soldiers are ready to die for justice, not for violence. And we are not afraid of death. We are like Vikings because if you look at Turkish history, even the some surveys about patriotism in Turkey and dying for the country, every Turk is always ready to die for justice. Even I. That is why I made this video in English. I don't care who says what says, but I try to explain the vision about Ukraine, about the Western countries, from very important city of the world, Istanbul. I hope world is going to catch the peace, but the only way to catch the peace is thinking each other. And this is impossible in capitalism, Western capitalism. This is impossible. But in our hearts, we have conscience. This is important point. We mustn't lose it. Hope to see you. Goodbye.